So I think we will begin the meeting in an official way, and we will do it as we always do it, in our traditional way. So let me say shalom, shalom to everybody. On behalf of Mashav, the Israeli Agency for International Cooperation, MATC, which is Mashav Center for Agricultural Training and the Ben Gurion University of the Negev, we are very honored to welcome you all and thank you for joining us today for this very special event commemorating World Day to Combat Desertification and Drought 2024. Let's remember today that more than 2 billion people live in deserts and drylands, accounting for nearly 40% of the Earth's land surface. Desertification and Drought Day was officially declared by the UN General Assembly and is meant to promote public awareness of international efforts to combat the expansion of deserts, but also let people know that desertification and drought can be effectively tackled, that solutions are possible, and that key tools to this aim lay in strengthened community participation and cooperation at all levels. More than half of Israel's territory is a desert. Since the establishment of Israel and until today, Israel has gained a lot of experience in dealing with the desert life challenges and managed to thrive financially, even though its climate conditions are very challenging. Today, we are very happy to have a new opportunity to join the efforts of the international community and share with you all a bit of Israel's experience, innovation, and develop technologies for making the desert bloom. Let me please invite Ambassador Irit Savion, Mashav's Director of Training, in order to greet you on behalf of Israel's Ministry of Foreign Affairs and on behalf of Mashav. Irit, the mic is yours.
Thank you very much, Evelyn, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody from wherever you are in the world. On behalf of Mashav and our training center, MATC, and agriculture fields, we are very honored to welcome you today to commemorate in this coming up lecture the International Day for Combating Desertification and Drought. As you know, that Mashav is Israel's Agency for International Development and Cooperation, established already in 1958 when Israel was only 10 years old, a country in its beginning, but already wanting to share with the world its experience and learn from the world. For many years, we in Mashav like to commemorate in one way or another the international days in lectures with different Israeli experts and expertise and sharing with you our experience. So those days can really get an added value and be more than just another name or another title within the international calendar. Combating desertification and drought is an issue of great importance for many countries and has been on the global agenda for many, many years. I remember the late president of Israel, Shimon Peres, talking a lot about the need to combat the desert, to combat the desertification. And it's not combating the desert. We can never overwhelm the desert, but we can find ways and technologies to overcome the challenges it brings upon our table. As Evelyn mentioned, over 50% of Israel is arid and semi-arid land. And over the years, the Israeli experience and the Israeli experts have developed many technologies if by planting trees, if what we call flourishing the desert, finding water solutions within the arid and semi-arid areas. As desertification happens for misuse of the land, or with the little I know, and overuse of natural resources, and a lot more. We are very, very honored today to have with us Professor Arnon Karnieli from, and we would like to thank in this opportunity the Gurion University, which is in Beersheba, the capital of the south of Israel and one of our biggest universities. We would like to thank the professor for joining us today for this lecture. Professor Arnon Karnieli has received his PhD from the University in Arizona, Tucson, Arizona, in 1988. Since then, he has been the head of the Remote Sensing Laboratory, Jacob Blaustein Institute for Desert Research on Ben-Gurion University of the Negev, Sde Boker campus in Israel, of course. His primary research is focused on processing spaceborne, airborne, and ground spectroscopic data of drylands concerning desertification and climate change processes. In this regard, his study applications cover dryland ecosystem and agriculture, and to a lesser extent, dust, aerosols, and coastal water. He has experience in land use and land cover change, spectral, septial, and temporal analysis. Professor Karnieli is the Israeli principal investigator of the Vegetation and Environment New Microspacecraft mission until recently. Professor Karnieli supervised many master's and PhD students at the Ben-Gurion University and around the country. He has published more than 250 papers in peer-reviewed journalists, and this is just the beginning of the CV of this very honored, very respected professor we have with us today, Professor Karnieli, and we'd like to thank you again very much for being with us today. Again, thank you very much, Evelyn Rosenthal, Deputy Director of Mashav Agriculture Training Center in Shfaim, for opening. Thank you very much, Dalia Noy, also from Mashav, for organizing this day and working for it. And thank you all for taking the time from your busy schedules to listen, to be with us today. I wish us all a fruitful lecture, an interesting lecture. Please remember, in Israel, we love questions. Please ask everything you want, ask anything you need, and be with us. We touch later on, further on. This is an honor to share the Israeli experience. Thank you very much, and all the best.
Thank you very much, Irit. Thank you so much. And well, let's give the mic to Professor Arnon Karnieli, who is also a good friend.
Yeah, thank you, Evelyn. Thank you, Irit, for introducing me. And as was said before, I'm from Ben-Gurion University, but I specifically belong to the Desert Research Institute, that is a separate campus. It's located in the heart of the Negev Desert. And okay, so everything is okay now?
Yes, thank you. You came back. Thank you for everybody to have a bit of patience. And Arnon, it's your.
So, okay, so let's skip the video. And the video was aimed to explain our institute, and the remote sensing laboratory is part of this institute. And as Irit said before, we are dealing with a different aspect of desert studies. And what I would like to talk with you today, it's about the anthropogenic-derived desertification in Israel, a case study of the northwestern Negev sand dune. Okay. So let's start with a class in history, and we are talking about the beginning or the end of the 19th century and the beginning of the 20th century. And in the Eastern Mediterranean, there were two empires. The first was the Ottoman empires that controlled the area of Turkey and Mesopotamia and Palestine at that time, and also the Saudi Arabia. And the second empire was the British Empire that was sitting mainly in Egypt. And from the time of, for that time, Egypt was a very, very important strategy area. Why? Because the Suez Canal in this area was open and active, and at that time there were no airplanes, so all the cargo from the British colonies in the Far East, like Australia, India, New Zealand, and other places, was transported through the Suez Canal to Europe. And also all the military activity at that time was passed through this canal. So these two empires fought on the canal, and at 2006 they decided about the border between the Ottoman Empire and the British Empire. And the border is seen here on the right panel. And as you see here, it's a straight line, political border between the Mediterranean and the Red Sea. Now, this border, as I said, it's political border. It crossed a sand field. And this sand field that you see here, it's in brown, it's an extension of the big sands in the Sahara and the West Desert in Egypt. And of course, there is no difference in the geomorphology and pedology and geology and climate on the two sides of the political border. Now, the state of Israel, established in 1948, and the border became the official border between Israel and Egypt. Now, Israel has a very strict ecological policy at that time, and no grazing and no animal activity and no human activity was on the Israeli side of the border in the Negev. However, in Egypt, they continued the anthropogenic activity, mainly grazing of sheep and camels and goats in Sinai. And the border was closed between 1948 and 1967. It was amazing that the astronaut on the Gemini program of the United States in 1963 was able to see the border. And again, it was the same sand dune, but it was seen from space by the astronauts. In 1967, you can see also the borderline, which is closed, the contrast between the dark tone in the Negev and the bright tone in Sinai. However, and this image was taken by a Corona satellite. It was a spy satellite of the United States, and you see the borderline. However, in this year, in June 1967, there was a war, and Israel took over Sinai. So the border, as a matter of fact, was open for Bedouin activities on both sides of the border. So this is the image in 1973, few later on, and you see that the border become a little bit wider. Here in this area, this is a military airport, so it was fenced all around, and you see that it's dark inside. So again, the Negev was a little bit less darker, and the Sinai continued to be bright. Now, amazing, in 1980, the border was not seen at all by satellite. There was almost no border between the two sides of the border. And this picture was taken in 1981, and you see the Bedouin herds was grazed on the Israeli side of the border. And the dunes are exposed and the sand was active. Now, in 1978, Israel and Egypt signed on a peace contract, and between 1979 and 1982, all the Israeli forces was moved from Sinai back to the Negev. And amazing again, the 2 years after the border closed again, we see the borderline. Again, the border was closed in 1982, and 2 years later, we see the borderline. The borderline become much more pronounced. You see the contrast between the Negev, which is very, very dark, and Sinai, which is bright. And I remember that the main reason is anthropogenic activity in Sinai and conservation policy in the Negev. Okay, this is an image from 2003. Now you see in 2006 that the Negev was actually darker than before. This image was exactly from the same point as before. And in the Egyptian side of the border, you see the Bedouin, the herds, the black sheep, and so on. Now, at that time, this line between the Negev and the Sinai was caught the attention of many, many scientists. One of them was Professor Otterman, that wrote a letter, an article in Science in 1974, and he said, well, this is a very good example of desertification. Why? Because in Sinai, in this area, there is overgrazing by the Bedouin herds. That means they are eating the vegetation. When I started to work in this area, it was in 1992. I took an aerial photograph, And I look at this area. This is the Israeli patrol road of the border. This is the Egyptian patrol. And you see that the area in Sinai is very, very bright. The dunes are bare sands. In Israel, you see only the crest of the dunes as active, but all the interdune, the area inside the dunes are dark. But it's not dark because of the vegetation, the higher vegetation, because the higher vegetation you can recognize by the small dots here. There is something else. So I did a digital elevation model and again see that this is the patrol road and the dunes in Egypt are bare and exposed, and all the area in between the two sides, the dune in the interdune are covered by a dark material. So I drove to the area and look on the ground and saw that I'm walking on a very hard material. It's called a biogenic soil crust or biocrust. And this material is actually fragile. If you're going and step on it, you break it and you expose the sands beneath. And if you are looking very careful on this biocrust, you see that it consists of microorganisms, cyanobacteria in this case. And you see the filaments here. Now, cyanobacteria, the filaments coming with the wind in a dust storms, together with fines, which is clay and silt, which are darker than the sands, which consists of quartz. So if we have the cyanobacteria and the silt and the clay, which is darker, we see the difference between the two sides of the border. These are bare soil. This is soil with a cyanobacteria, and these communities can also have lichens or mosses. And according to the succession of the microphytes of the biocrust, in the hyper-arid you have bare soil, in arid you have cyanobacteria, and then in semi-arid you have also green algae and salt lichens. And in dry subhumid you have much more algae and mosses. So why it's important? As you see, the biocrust, as a matter of fact, it occupies only a few millimeters of the topsoils, but they can remain in a dormant mode under condition of under dry condition for many, many years. Once they have water and sunlight, they start the photosynthetic, like higher vegetation. And then when the time becomes drier, they enter to a other mode, and they are not dying. They remain alive, but in dormant mode, not active. Once again they have water and sunlight, they start their photosynthetic activity. This is a very important point. This was distinguished between biocrust, lower vegetation, and shrubs, which is higher vegetation. So when we did a survey, we saw that the Negev has occupied by biocrust by 71%, and Sinai only 80% by bare sands. And there is another principle in remote sensing, say that if we have less than 20 or 30 percent of vegetation, of higher vegetation, we don't see the vegetation at all. We see the ground. So if we are looking at this area, we see that the vegetation, the higher vegetation, is very, very sparse. So we took also spectral measurements in this area. And what we see here, this is the reflectance, the light that's coming out from the ground as a function of wavelengths. And we see that the light of the bare sands are higher, the reflectance of the bare sands are higher than the biogenic rust. And the higher vegetation, like an Artemisia monosperma, are very, very low. So we conclude at that time that the difference between the Negev and Sinai, it's not a matter of grazing the higher vegetation, but the cover of the biocrust in the Israeli Negev and the herds and the human activity in Sinai prevent the establishment and development of the biocrust. And this is the difference between the two sides of the border. Now, looking again at these curves, again, the reflectance, the brightness of the area versus the wavelengths of the remote sensing. And again, the bare sands are higher, they are brighter than the biocrust in most of the area, except in the blue region. In this region, the biocrust, it's higher reflected than the cyanobacteria. And we see this phenomena all over the world. We find it in Senegal and in Egypt and in Burkina Faso and in southern Spain. All the area that we measured and we read in the literature showing the same phenomena. The reflectance in the blue, it's higher in the biocrust than in the substrate, in the soils or the sands. Now, we know that the biocrust, the cyanobacteria, has a pigment called phycobilin. So we extract the phycobilin, and we saw that when we extracting the phycobilin, we see that the area, why the area is that the blue color affect the darkness of the area. Why? If you are thinking about cyanobacteria, what's it cyan? Cyan, it's a blue-green. And in the very beginning, people called the cyanobacteria blue-green algae because it reflects more in the blue-green than the substrate. So, this is again the curves. You see that the bare sands are higher in the reflectance than the cyanobacteria, but not in the green. So we have two regions, the blue and the red, and we can play between them. What we did, we developed a manipulation, what we call in remote sensing an index. And we call this index CI, that means a crust index, in order to map the biocrust in the Negev and in Sinai. So this is the result. We took the same originally aerial photograph and we ran this index. We computed this index, and what we see that the dune crests are bright, but the area in between the dunes, in the interdune, are darker. So this is one of the way to confirm our theory. When we run it on a satellite image, we see the same, that the interdune or the Israeli side, it's darker than the Sinai, and we can very nice see the dirt roads because of the off-road cars. They prevent the cyanobacteria to be established. This is another image. We see again the dune sands or the interdune are bright, and the dirt road are also can see. Now, after doing it, we took a series of many images from 1973 to 2000, even later. And as I said before, the area was dark in the early years, 1973, 1976, 1979. We almost don't see the border. And in 1982, the border lines almost disappeared. And then after 2 years, in 1984, it's appeared again. And it's become very dark with the years. So this is a time series. This is a calculation or presentation of the crust index. And again, we see that the bare crusts are in blue, are much more effective in the Negev, and the bare sands are much more effective in Sinai. And we did it for many, many years, all the images that I showed before. And now we calculated the difference. And I already show you the difference between 1984, when we started to get back this signal of the biocrust in the Negev, and 2009, this was the year when we completed this study. And we see this is the recovery of the area by biocrust in green, and the desertification, we see it in this area in brown and yellow. We will understand it in a minute. And the western side of the border in Sinai has no change at all. So we went one step further, and we see now 3 sub-areas. The first one in Sinai, as I said, there are no change. You see here the straight line all the way from 1984 to 2009. In this area, we see the recovery of the biocrust, and the recovery, it's this line, the blue line. But there is area here that I said that it's under desertification because of military activity. It's a training zone with a lot of military activity, and we see that the area is under degradation. So again, no change, recovery, and desertification. Now, we see also that we calculated also the brightness of this area, and we call it a brightness index, which is a manipulation of other spectral region. And now from this calculation, we started in 1963, we have images of the Corona satellite, and we see that the bars here showing a significant difference between the red, which is Sinai, and the green, which is the Negev. So it has a significant difference in the first years. Now, what's happened in 1979 and in 1982, there is no significant difference. And again, after 2 years, we still saw this difference between the two sides of the board. So if we are taking some kind of imaginary line between of the brightness, we see that the minimum occurred in 1982, but 2 years later, in 1984, we are getting a darkness again, and we see it until now. This is another satellite. It's called NOAA. It's American satellite, and we have the satellite since 1982 or 84 until now. And again, what we see here, this is the reflectance, the signal of Sinai in red, and the Negev in green, and the blue line, it's the difference between the two areas. And what we see that, again, from 1982 until now, there is an increase of the brightness. Now a question. I read a paper of a professor from Maryland University, and he said, well, the scale of the desertification, what you see here in this area, it's actually in area wide enough between 1 degree over 1 degree, that's mean about 100 kilometer over 100 kilometer, and the desertification holds between 20 to 50 years. So this statement actually it's in contradiction to our finding, because if we say that we can recover the area in 2 years, if we stop the anthropogenic activity between 1982, after 2 years, we see that the area is recovered. That means that, as a matter of fact, it's not desertification. Because, as I said, desertification is irreversible phenomena. Like in, for instance, in the Aral Sea, there is a lot of salt in the ground that can be recovered, maybe only after a massive, very wide activity. So this makes our research very, very interesting in terms of desertification, whether the biogenic crust that covers the Negev or covers Sinai, it's a desertification or not. Now, let's go to other aspect. And you see, as I said before, the biogenic crust, when it's wet, it's turned into green. That means that it starts the photosynthetic activity like higher plants. And this is an image we took in the middle of the rainy season in December. I don't see the date. This is in January. And you see that at that time, the higher vegetation are dry because the rains had just started. Okay, now we have an index in remote sensing that called normalized different vegetation index, that it's working on the difference between this area of the spectrum, which is affected by the structure of the leaves, and the red part, which is affected by the photosynthetic of the vegetation. And this index, the NDVI, it's highly correlated with the photosynthetic activity and chlorophyll content and many, many other variables. Now, when we are applying this index, the NDVI on both sides of the border, we see that in the Negev area, we see higher values of vegetation, of NDVI, that means higher reflectance of the vegetation, and in Sinai, much less, because here the dunes are bare. This signal, usually people refer it to higher vegetation, but in our region, we know that there is no higher vegetation. And if we have higher vegetation, it's, as a matter of fact, dry, because you see that at this time, the vegetation is dry. So all the signal, as a matter of fact, coming by the biogenic crust that turn into green because they start the photosynthetic activity. So I'm going back to an experiment that we did, or observation that we did several years ago, and we took 4 years for this experiment, for this observation. The 2 years, the 2 extreme years were drought. You see that the mean annual desertification precipitation in the area is 67 millimeter. So these were obvious drought years. And 2, the rainfall was higher than the annual mean, which means rainy years. And we calculated the NDVI that I mentioned before, and the rainfall in blue, and we see that in the rainy years, the signal of the NDVI was much higher than in the drought years. However, in Sinai, where there is no vegetation at all, the line remains straight, doesn't move. There is no fluctuation like in the Negev. And when we are looking, these are the difference between the cyan line. It's the difference between the 2 areas. You see that after rainy years, the difference between high, and in the drought years, the difference stayed low. So we know that until now that the biogenic crust are dark. Now, if it's dark, it's also absorbed radiation and emit radiation. That means that we can see the difference between the 2 sides by the thermal properties of the ground. And you see, this is the borderline between the Sinai and the Negev. You see on both sides, again in the zoom in window. And you see that Israel, it's much hotter than Sinai. So this is an image of the ground. You see here, this is the dune crest. It's without vegetation, but all the interdune is in with vegetation and crust, biogenic crust. And when we are looking on the thermal image, we see in red, this is the interdune crust, which is much hotter than the dune crest, which is cooler. Now, if we are going to the 4 years of observation, obviously, you see now, again, the Sinai line in red and the green line is the Negev. Okay, the Sinai in red and the Negev in green, and we see the land surface temperature lines. Obviously, in the winter, we see no difference between the two sides. The sands are wet, so there is no difference in the thermal properties. However, during the summer, we see obvious or significant difference between the two sides of the border. When we're calculating the difference now, we see that Israel actually hotter in 4 centigrade during the summer than Sinai. You see, these are the difference. So we have the properties of the cyanobacteria both in the reflective bands, but also in the thermal bands. Now, in order to compare and to show you the importance of the biocrust, I would like to take you to another region. This is the United States, Arizona, and Mexico, and also here there is a political border, a straight line. And you see that the political border, in north of the political border in the United States, it's darker than the Sonora Desert in Mexico. And the reason again, it's that in Mexico, there is much more grazing than in the United States. However, when we are looking on the thermal properties of the ground, we see that although it's darker, it's also hotter. And in Arizona, in the United States, it's cooler. So it's in reverse situation than in Israel. So again, the Negev in Israel has a low brightness and high land surface temperature. And in Sonora, it's just the opposite. There is high albedo, it's darker, it's brighter, but also hotter. How we explain it? So we explain it by the following. What's happened in Israel, it's that the area is covered by biocrust, which is darker and much less higher vegetation than in Sonora. In Arizona, there is many cacti, and this plains has a lot of water, and they evaporate a lot of water. So obviously, the background is much cooler than area without vegetation. Now, we can see that the biocrust, it's very important. It's covered a lot of areas all over the world. You can see it in the Sahel area, in the northern a part of Africa, in Spain, in the desert of Central Asia, in Australia, in South Africa, in Namibia, in Argentina, in Chile, and also in North America. So, biocrust is also very important component in climate change, because biocrust protect the soil, accelerate the rate of the soil formation, and contribute to biochemical nitrogen cycle by fixation of atmospheric carbon and nitrogen. Although visually they are almost among a least impressed community in nature, they form a visual part of the natural cycles. And if you are looking very careful in this map, you see that most of the crusty area actually degraded during the last 20 years. You see the red color, that means that the area is degraded. Only very small area here and there is a recovery of the sand. So actually, I shortened the presentation in order to be on time, and thank you very much for your attention, and I'm open to questions. Evelyn, do you have a few more minutes for questions? We can't hear you.
Hello, now? Yes?
Yeah, we hear you.
Okay. we have a lot of problems today. Okay, thank you, Arnon. First of all, thank you very much. Okay, actually, I haven't seen questions in the chat. We have some comments. Maybe. Okay. Wait, let me see. For example, Leonid. It's a very interesting lecture, impressive work of scientists and important data that can be used in many parts of the world. Climate change is ongoing. Desertification is now affecting even countries where it was not known. Thank you for this incredible lecture. Greetings from Ukraine. But let's see. Do we have questions? If you have any question, please raise your hand and maybe we can do it directly. Can open your mic. Question. Arnon, maybe you can tell us some practical things. Well, you are.
I have a question.
Oh, Alan, hello. First of all, where are you from?
I'm from Kenya.
Ah,
okay.
Yes, I had put the question in the comment section, but it's like it was not noticed. So, hello, Prof. I just wanted to know how these studies can be used by state, regional governments to improve agricultural practices that goes towards preservation of environment.
So this is a question actually very, very much connected to what Evelyn wanted to ask. And in recent year, we are working, not I'm personally, but I know there are groups of people that are working about develop the cyanobacteria and other crust in the nursery, and then seeding. If you want to fix the dunes or fix the sandy lands, you can seed it by airplanes or by trucks or by other mechanism. And then, as you see, they are very fast established in the area. And then they stop the mobility of a dune. They can fix the area. And this activity is still under development. Was I clear?
Yeah, I suppose yes. Thank you, Arnon. Yes, we have another question from Piet. Is there a negative effect of biocrust on rainfall infiltration? Let's say, is there a better infiltration in the Sinai than in the Negev?
There are some work that showing also the hydrological effect of biocrust, because they prevent water to go directly into the ground. But from my observations, it's not completely true, because there are many holes in the ground of small animals, navranim. How do you say it in English?
Type of
like a mice
like
and
mice
so
is rabbit, yeah.
But also the big animals like deers or other animals that walking on the grass, because it's so fragile, there are open holes in the ground, and these holes actually collect all the water. So altogether, we don't think that there is any effect of the overall water regime or the water content of the ground.
Okay, thank you. Well, we have here many comments of thank you, Arnon, very toda rabba and very good, and actually you are also invited to Panama.
Great.
Jair, you are with us. Jair is from the embassy, Israeli embassy in Panama. Yes, Mariam, please.
Hello once again. First of all, thanks a lot for your very, very interesting presentation. Regarding desertification. Well, first of all, let me introduce myself. I'm from Agricultural University of Georgia, Doctor of Agrarian Sciences. So the title of my PhD was Pasture Management System in Georgia, and the topic including how to manage pasture itself. So the problem of desertification, it's frequently we have in our country on pasture territories. So that's why my question is that whether you know, maybe you know for your wide experience and your wide research, what is common due to pasture desertification and just desertification? Just in what is common? What is like similar, and what is differences between them? If you have kind of an information to compare to each other. So thank you.
I'm not sure that I can tell you exactly what are the difference or the common area, but if you're talking about desertification, we actually we are actually in very general, we are talking about degradation of the land. And degradation of the land, it's a combination of the vegetation and the soil. So if
And erosion, yeah, okay.
but degradation, it's erosion, okay?
Mhm.
Now, if you're talking about less vegetation like trees or bushes, so this is biotic aspects of the desertification. But if you are talking about, for instance, salinity or other abiotic processes, so it belongs to the soil. But it's going together, and for this reason, we are talking about land.
Exactly.
Land degradation, and land contain both soil and vegetation together. Okay?
Okay, yeah, thank you. Thank you.
You're
I wanted to
welcome.
clarify that, so thanks a lot.
Yes, Leonid, please.
Shalom to everyone.
Yeah.
I'm from Ukraine, from West Ukrainian National University. I am PhD, and also I am head of Department of Ecology. As I said, this problem also connect in our country, and we now have such territory where we have climate consequences. So this problem is now common for different countries from different sides of the world. And you know, as a graduate from Mashav in 2022, I remember the great words from Ben Gurion in Negev when she said that in Negev would be grape. And it's maybe about 40s or 50s years but of 20th century, but it's about the care about the attitude to environment, and also about scientific researches about the desert, about Negev. I also see that your data is incredible. It's about cooperation from different fields, from different specialists, from different sites, from satellite. And would you say that such satellite data was important for your research and this composition between monitoring from satellites and bioresearchers would have such result of your great data? You know, it's a great example of mixing a combination scientific researches, because you compose satellite data, biological data, and also physical data about albedo effect. It's great data, and I ask you, how many people is in your group or in your team?
It depends. We have several scientists by the degree of PhD and higher, but we have also technical assistants, but we have a very good students, you know, master and PhD students that doing a lot of the work.
Yeah. I see. Thank you for your job.
No problem. Yeah, your university is in Kiev?
My university in the western part of Ukraine, but I was a student of Kiev University. We have different connection with Israel and the Embassy of Israel. And on 10th of July, we will have special forum, special event of water policy in Kiev.
Okay. Take care of yourself.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. When have you been here, Leonid?
I was in 2022. My 2022 in November.
In where have you been here with us in Shfaim?
Yeah,
Ah, good.
Ozeryansky, Yuri
Ah,
Ozeryansky. Yeah,
yeah. The water program. Yeah, sure.
yeah, not a problem. Yeah.
Sure. Good.
Great experience,
Nice
all
to
of us. Thank you so much. Great job, great support. תודה רבה.
Okay, great.
בבקשה. Arnon, I think it would be a great idea if you can write down in the chat your email, maybe.
Okay. Sure.
And yeah, we have a question here. Yeah, Sire, where? Yeah, please. You can open your mic.
You see my chat? Not yet?
Yes,
Now we do.
yes.
Okay, great.
Yeah, Sire, where are you from?
Yes, wonderful. Hello, all the team of this webinar of the Anthropogenic desertification in Israel and Negev. I come from Senegal, Saint-Louis.
Ah, bonjour.
Senegal.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Hello. I'm in Senegal, in Saint-Louis. Yes, I am very, very glad to listen, to learn the knowledge of the Professor Karnieli. I'm very glad. And my question is, it is possible to use the solar energy for to can use the water in the desert for to use and to grow plant for the protection of the soil in the desert. It is possible to use the solar energy for to grow the vegetables. It is my one question.
You asked something that I'm not really a specialist. We are definitely use a lot of solar energy because we are have a lot of sun and many clear days that we can enjoy the energy of the sun. But you know, it also it's an area that it's under a very intensive development in Israel and all over the world. I was in Senegal last year, and I saw that you have also a lot of areas that you can build solar panels and solar plants in order to collect the energy.
What I can add maybe is that we see now a lot of research dealing with like mixing crops with solar panels, or
Yeah,
for
yeah.
example, actually also in greenhouses, part of the greenhouse you can cover with solar panels, and so you can grow vegetables and also collect the sun for energy. And
yeah,
for
you are right. Yeah, there is a lot of investigation now in order to have a field with a dual use for agriculture and for solar harvesting or solar energy, to collect solar energy. There is a lot of studies now in this direction.
And for sure for pumping water also.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I forgot to tell you, I come from at the University of Bombay in Senegal, UADB, University of Alin Diop. In the Institute higher training of agriculture and rural. It's far of Bombay, and
Okay.
I like very well the program. Yes.
Very good.
Yes.
Okay, friends, what I was thinking, maybe, you know what? I think it would be a great idea if I will share with you the list of the people we are here together, because one of our thing, what we like very much to do is to bring people together. So yeah, that's what I'm going to do. I'll share with you the list of all the experts we are here together. You are here together, and maybe you can interconnect with information and experience. So let us know. Let us know if a nice project is coming out from that meetings. Okay. Okay, friends, I think with this, we would like to thank so much, Arnon. Thank you very, 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 very much. Or let me see, is there any other question? No. Or, Jair, you want to ask something? Sorry, Jair, you are here with us. You want to ask something directly?
Yes, me. You tell me?
No. Jair del Castillo, you are with us. The precipitation, he is asking, the precipitation is a crucial climatic element that regulates primary production in semi-arid tropical, I don't know why this, I don't see this. Wait a second, please. No. Senegal, can you close your mic, please? Question. The precipitation is a crucial climatic element that regulates primary production in semi-arid tropical desert and grasslands ecosystems.
The answer is definitely yes, but I don't see what is the question.
Jair, you are with us in Panama? You would like to ask more? No, I don't know. No, I think he's not here. Okay. Rodolfo, you want to say something else? Rodolfo? Yes. Rodolfo, yes.
Okay, yes. I want to tell you that I am right now, I am linking social forces because Guatemala have many Mayan groups in the country and all around Guatemala. I am linking social groups with water. My question directly is, do you have some anthropologic research about water and social forces and predisposition to keep the water and the fountains with social groups? I am right now in this theme. Thank you.
Interesting.
Thank you very much.
Maybe we have any experience, somebody working with that in Ben Gurion, Arnon?
I'm not sure now. I can, if you can send me a email, I can check.
I will send to everybody.
Good, Rodolfo, thank you. Well, again, Arnon, thank you so much for being with us. Thank you for the time. I'm sorry, it was my mistake as a host. I don't know what happened. So
That's okay. That's okay.
I am
Everything
really
fine.
sorry. And thank you everybody for so much patience. I will put you in the chat. No, sorry, that's not. Our YouTube and Facebook addresses. So we will, first of all, in our Facebook, as you already know, we are publishing this type of activities, and also slowly we are beginning with international training programs. Hopefully we will be able to increase the activities again. At the YouTube page, you will be able to find a lot of conferences we did along the years. Very interesting, I'm sure, and for sure we will publish this lecture for sure tomorrow. It will be uploaded. So, dear friends, thank you so much for joining us today. Let's continue working together to make this world a better place for everybody, hoping for peace wherever you are and everywhere in this world. And have a great day still, and see you soon in our next meeting. So toda rabba, thank you, and shalom, which means peace.
Thank you, Evelyn, for organizing this. Shalom.
All the best for everybody.
Bye.
Yes.
Thank you, Ora. Thank you, Ora, for joining
Thank you.
and helping so much.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye to everybody.